All right, guys, let's get the day started here. Look a little rough. I don't know how it's going to come out on the YouTube here and stuff, but recording these before I'm going to work. I'm doing two videos. Hopefully, it'll be uploaded pretty soon. And so the light's not the best because it's early. But didn't do a live stream this past Sunday. Today is August 15th. It's a Thursday. But basically, because I went to a wedding in Kingsport, Tennessee at a place called Allendale Mansion. I put some pictures up on Facebook. I might have put something on Instagram. I don't know. I'm Howler Mouse on Instagram in case anybody's interested. But anyway, but I ended up, my fiance was a bridesmaid in the wedding, so I had a little bit of free time to find a comic book shop. And it was very cool, man. It's called Dwayne's World Comic Shops or something like that. And it's a bit on the high end, but it's an immaculate comic book shop. Bunch of shelves, bunch of stock, clean, bright. But they have a sign up that says when you go through their back issues, due to the prices fluctuating and things, they'll look them up when you bring them up there. I was very skeptical, but I got a very good deal on these books. They average to be about $2 a piece, and one of them was a steal. I'm not going to lie. I kind of feel like the guy sort of went through the first couple of books, saw that they were all sort of, you know, nothing real special there, but one book I think is. So we're going to talk about that. Now, I look a little rough. I don't know, might lose my train of thought here because at the wedding, me and two or three other people ended up being sick, and I actually missed a day of work this week, and I'm weak as a kitten now. But I'm tired of this. I'm tired. I'm tired of being sick. So we'll see what happens here, right? So real quick, I'm just going to show you the haul. After this one, I'm going to do another one because I hit a Books a Million and they have a phenomenal sale going on. Apparently, that sale has been going on for a while, so kudos to those that kept it quiet. First thing that I got, I'm going to hit you with the big book here. Um, in my eyes, this is Cerebus, Mothers and Daughters, Chapter 11, but it's issue 161 of Cerebus. Now, I've looked for this book on eBay, and I'm not going to say that the prices were too bad for what it is, but it was the condition of the book that I was sort of iffy about. So I kind of checked it out every now and then. As anybody that follows this knows, I'm shooting to complete the run of Cerebus from 25 to about 300. Uh, Getting real close, but I've slowed down a whole lot. But anyway, this is the significance of this book. This is the first published appearance of Jeff Smith's Bone, if you will. Now, I'm real sure that is. I would say it's the first published appearance. It's probably the first published appearance in a comic because Jeff Smith started drawing that character like in kindergarten or something, and I would assume maybe in college or something he might have put Bone out or something in some college papers or something. Who knows? I'll probably do a little digging later on just to kind of get that memory. For some reason, I get Ben Edlund, who did The Tick, and Jeff Smith, who does Bone. I get their history mixed up in my mind for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why. But anyway, $2 for this, which I thought was fantastic. Bone is a book that has a huge cult following. It's celebrated. It was, to me, it was a indie staple of the '90s, if you will. It's had a couple of collections and stuff, and I always feel like that book is going to pop again in the future for some reason. Right? Just uh, am I speculating? Probably, but it's not from hoping these things become worth money. I think it's more wishful thinking. You know what I mean? It's to me, it's like Calvin and Hobbes. To me, Bone is like the Calvin and Hobbes, the peanuts, if you will, of there you go, talking like Dusty Rhodes of comic books and stuff, right? When I read Bone, it's written in a way, it's so influenced by Karl Barks and some other things that it feels like a um, elongated comic strip more than a comic, if you will. Okay. So everybody knows, again, one of the things I'm playing around trying to complete is the Baxter run of Legion of Superheroes. Now, these books, I could probably just go in and order them online or go out there and just pick them up. And I pick them up here and there. I take my time with it because I had a ton to begin with, right? But there's two books in particular that are hard to find in the wild. And I always say that, comic book collecting is, perception. I'm talking about in my area, right? These two books, are they something special? Who knows? Who knows what it is? I guess on why they're sort of hard to find in the wild. But Legion of Superheroes number 36, right? That's a John Byrne cover. So I'm going to get that morning light glare off of here. So it's a John Byrne cover. It's from 1987, but the votes are in now. Legion of Superhero collectors, fans, old school guys, stuff like that. Uh, as corny as it sounds and fun, election time for who's going to be the leader of the Legion of Superheroes end up being a little bit of a special story because you get into characterization and things and votes and it adds a little bit of drama and stuff. It's amazing. And then number 37, right now this one I understand a bit more for the John Byrne nuts too also. But when John Byrne came on and revamped Superman in the 80s there, he depowered Super. Basically he went back to Superman's roots in the comics, if you will, back in the Golden Age. He depowered Superman. There was never a Superboy, but this caused DC history to go into turmoil. It was a bad call. I've always said it was a bad call. But this was their attempt to kind of fix it to where Superboy was actually just another plot against the Legion by the Time Trapper. And this was sort of Legion of Superheroes sort of had a epilogue and a prologue. This being the epilogue, in my opinion, where John Byrne went in his Superman book in Action Comics and really got into the meat of the story and what it was. It was kind of convoluted. Convoluted. Listen to me. It was a bit contrived, I think. But they were trying to give answers, fix a sort of a continuity, I guess. They were just trying to. That's the fact that they acknowledged it is one of the reasons why I kind of let it go. I just still kind of shake my head. But fun issue here, Steve Lytle cover. Now, when Paul Levitz writes these, I think Paul Levitz has really looked over, and to a certain extent, Paul Levitz and the Keith Giffen team, if you will. But Paul Levitz, you have the classic stories of Chris Claremont being on X-Men for 17 years, with the peak of that, if you will, being the Claremont Byrne years. Then you have Teen Titans with the Perez Wolfman team, Jack Kirby, Stan Lee on Fantastic Four. Those celebrated runs and stuff. But I think Paul Levitz gets looked over for all the years going back to the 70s he was involved with the Legion. Of course, the Giffen years with Paul Levitz and stuff, I put those right up with the Claremont Byrne X-Men and the um, Marv Wolfman and George Perez Teen Titans. All right. Now, something else that I got here years later, Legion. I'm probably going to end up doing a video later on about this Bendis Brian Sook Legion with what's coming out. But one of the things that the Legion hit in the 90s was a very weird time for the Legion with the revamps they have with Zero Hour and things that were going on. But one of the celebrated runs was by Abnett and Lanning. I've talked about it here before. And they came on and they finished off a Legion of Superheroes title run at the end of the 90s. Came out with the Legion Lost, a 12 issue miniseries that just was on fire when it came out. And then they went into another series of Legion books. It's called The Legion. And they brought in Darkseid there in the 20s, had Tony Harris doing the covers and things. And this fits in between like issue 26 and 27. Legion of Superheroes, Secret Files 3000. Just a fun little book that'll kind of catch you up. And there's a Darkseid appearance in here. Now, when I say catching up, I kind of flip through this and it sort of gives you a rundown of the characters and things that are going on there and stuff, right? Just a real good informative material, if you will, right? And I'm going to take a break here and pick up a book because I'm going to talk about this one a little bit. Elementals by Bill Willingham. Okay, Bill Willingham is probably the most famous for Fables. Um, and Fables was a Vertigo series, which I hung in. I was there from issue 1 to about 43 or 44. Basically, all the fairy tale creatures and things are in this world. Fairy tale creatures, Snow White, Cinderella, Prince Charming, Bigby Wolf, the wolf from the Three Little Pigs story. And I think they made him the wolf, same wolf in Little Red Riding Hood. I don't know, and stuff like that. But he put him in the real world because the fairylands and stuff are being invaded one by the adversary. And for over 3.5 years, the mystery was who's the adversary. And if you read the book, I sort of kind of saw where it was going, where I think Peter Pan may have grown up and became like a Captain Hook figure, but they couldn't do it anymore because Peter Pan, unknown to Bill Willingham until somebody at DC told him, and he couldn't believe it either. Peter Pan has this like legal infinite like copyright to an orphanage in England, right? So they always get the royalties to keep this orphanage going and stuff. So they had to change it and became Geppetto was the adversary. And I just got mad and sold all the books. One of my few emotional reactions to a series just pissed me off because I was there a month to month, ordering it online, reading 4 or 5 books at a time. Sometimes I'd get them monthly. The payoff didn't. But way before that, in the 80s, Bill Willingham was with Comico. Bill Willingham also worked for TSR doing Dungeons and Dragons stuff, right, for their books and stuff, right. Bill Willingham always was. He popped up with Green Lantern with Steam Eagleheart and stuff. He has a very unique career in my eyes, right. But when I was about 16 in summer of 1989, I made it to a Walden Books at the Mercer Mall. There's no comic book shops and stuff, and they the term was alternative comics back then. We've known them as indie since the forever and stuff. They were even called indie a little bit back then, independent comics, but the term was alternative. And back then, when you read an alternative comic, it really did have a mood when you read it, an atmosphere. It felt a little bit like a comic book, a mainstream comic book, but then they'd put these mature themes, realistic violence in them, tones, unpredictable stuff, and the character designs. I mean, some of them were awful, but that added to the mood of the book. And the way I saw it, the word I came up with is they weren't marketable, right? So I ended up getting 2 books at this Walden Books as I was just amazed and stuff, right? One was this Elementals, and the other one was Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman, number 6, I think. It was the diner, the 24 hours in the diner, if you know the series, where, it was a horror story told in 24 hours in a diner, okay? But anyway, but the thing about it is they came with these UPC symbols and they're stickers. So you're 16, you get these books that you can't find in the spinner rack, and they had a feel of like you got something special. You better hold on to them, right? In my eyes, in the way my way of thinking was, is that they're not on the spinner rack, so they must have a smaller print run. That's why they're harder to get. It was young, pre-internet, and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that's silly, but it was a good day. You know what I mean? So I didn't take the stickers off these UPC symbols. They needed them for the store, so they could just scan them and stuff. They wouldn't put the price in, by hand, I guess. So I left those stickers on both those books, and you can see where I kind of played around with it years later because the glue went through the cover. In my eyes, in my memory, I thought about that, but I was like, well, I want to keep it mint. I want to keep it complete, So, these things happen, but it bled through the years. I was thinking surely they wouldn't put a sticker on a comic that would make it bleed. In my eyes, everybody knew a comic was supposed to be mint. Surely a store would want to take care of their books. So this book isn't really it's hard to find, even though it's not worth anything. Again, just in the area and stuff. I've ran across 2 issues over the years to upgrade it, and they were just not in bags, and they had the wear on them where the black was rubbed off and stuff from being in boxes unbagged and stuff. So I got this, and this Elemental is run by Bill Williams. This is volume 2, number 3. The first 2 volumes I recommend. I really do. Now there's a whole story on where the rights are with the Elementals as to why you haven't seen them reprinted or done anything with. Again, another book I think would pop. And everybody I've turned on to this book really likes it. So, maybe who knows, right? So the idea that getting this book brought back some memories and stuff, and I've told the story before, but these are 2 books. But at the same time that we were with this Walden Books, I was riding around with my mother and grandmother, and my grandmother would get a beer or 2 and get a little bit lit. I thought it was hilarious. It got on everybody's nerves and stuff like that. And I wanted this book that I saw. I'd heard about this story. Everybody knew about this story and stuff. And there it is in leather bound up there on this shelf in Walden Books. And Mom was like, no, he's not going to get it. Do not buy that for him and stuff, right? So we go home, and I want to say I watched the first Clash of Champions that night. That's the memory I may be inserting into this, and that was Sting versus Ric Flair. So this kind of gives you a highlight, but I swear I think that was like 1987. So probably not the same memory. But anyway, I spent the night at my grandmother's house. I remember I was watching TV, and I remember from the kitchen I heard her say, "Come in here." And I go in there to her kitchen, and she opens up her purse, and she whips out. She's like, I don't care what your mother says. You make good grades. You don't get in trouble. You don't do this. You don't do that. And I didn't have the greatest home life. I don't make that a secret. You know what I mean? I mean, there was being the oldest kid, I was able to make it easier for the siblings, if that makes any sense, right? So having this bought for me by my grandmother, the leather bound edition of Dark Knight. If there's a fire, this book's getting grabbed. This book is coming with me, right? Good memories, good memories. So anyway, and then these books here, I passed them up probably about I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. Time's flying by at Baltimore Con, and they were actually $1 a piece there. And I just found them so early, and I'm at Baltimore Con. I wanted to kind of run around in case there was other things that I couldn't find. Right? I love this series. This series had an impact on Frank Miller. Actually, when first comics first publishing started putting these square bound books out, Frank Miller was doing the covers, and I think he did an editorial in one or two of them. But the Mike Plug issues there towards the end of the series are highly coveted by Plug fans, Mike Plug fans. Mike Plug is definitely somebody worth looking up. I can do a whole video on finding out I was a Mike Plug fan before I found all this stuff was by him, going like from the Wizards, the Ralph Bakshi cartoon, to certain movies that you find out that he did. He worked on. It's amazing, right? So I found these Lone Wolf and Cub books, right? This one's a little bit pricey, but he cut me a deal. He gave me half off of what he found it listed for. It's number 37, the first one. Sorry about the glare. But I was real happy to find this. Issue 39 here, for some reason, is a big double bound. Now, as you can see, these are square bound books, and I love square bound books. They look so good on a shelf. It's one of the few aesthetics of comics that I look at, and it just makes me smack my lips, where it looks so good. I had these on a bottom shelf behind me right there with the Hellraiser Epic line of books from late 80s, early 90s and stuff, right? But Mike Plug has done a really good job with these covers of keeping it in the spirit of the book and the art inside. These are translated manga, from what I remember and understand. And, I've reread the first 12 issues a whole lot. It's time for me to kind of move on with the series and reread some of them, but I've never read these, right? So I was very glad to be patient and to find these, because I do think, going by memory, these are in better shape than the ones in Baltimore Comics. All right, guys. Like I said, I got to get on with my day. Thanks for hanging in. I'm going to shoot another video and get out of here. I'll try to get these loaded as soon as I can, which I don't know why I'm telling you that, because when you see it, it's already loaded. Be excellent. Later.